lot to talk about today, so get in here. This is Jack with Cosmic Road. I'll talk about UFOs and the paranormal. Please hit like and subscribe, and let me know what you think in the comments below. Yeah, check out that cool sphere that seems to be buzzing this helicopter. Is that a dragon UFO? It certainly looks like it. Going super fast. Look, this is obviously in slow-mo. You can see how fast the rotors of the helicopter are going, and then compared to that, how quickly that object is going across the screen. Just a great capture of this potential dragon UFO buzzing this helicopter. Love it. Love it. Good stuff. And this is shared by Skywatch Signals. So thank you, Skywatch. Yeah, let me know what you think about that. Meanwhile, from Christopher Sharp, who says Susan Goff from the DOD, the lovely Susan Goff, or Susan Go, however you say that, she said, "No, you may not amend my statement." When Chris's buddy, I don't know how to pronounce your name, Unstable Research, I guess, asked if he could amend her below statement, swapping the term extraterrestrial for non-human and unknown intelligence. I can confirm that to date, the Department of Defense has not found any verifiable evidence that any UAP incident is a result of ET activity. That was her original statement, and for some reason, Unstable Research asked to change ET to non-human or unknown. I'm not sure why he asked to make that change, or if he could make that change for her, but she said, "No, you may not amend my statement." Now, some people think that's actually a good thing, in that she may have meant something, other dimensional or, crypto-terrestrial or something like that may still be on the table. However, Dan Zetterstrom nixes that idea. He says, "I asked Goff this very question. ET is equal to NHI for them." He asked her, "Hi, Susan. That's great. Thank you for the snappy response. Does the use of the term ET in that statement include non-human intelligence?" Answer is yes. So Susan Goff is basically saying here that, yeah, they have seen no evidence of ET or any other NHI activity, which, of course, is a blatant lie. You would expect nothing less from Susan Goff, who has been lately running around spreading disinformation in places like the Wall Street Journal, in coordination with the lovely Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick. So it's interesting. After everything that has come out in the last few years, you would think they would leave a little wiggle room there. Otherwise, it's just blatantly obvious that they're lying. If they say, like the lovely Dr. Kozlowski does, well, there's some unexplained stuff out there, then you can justify that, right? You can say, well, we haven't found anything interesting, but there are some unexplained stuff. But just to blanketly say, nope, there's no ET activity, nothing to see here, is a little hard to swallow. So let me know what you think about that interesting statement. And thank you, Chris and Dan, for sharing. I appreciate that. Meanwhile, Gonzalo Chavez is pointing us to a roundtable discussion on the Buga Sphere. So I will link to this, and you can follow this link. I don't think it's in English, but you're welcome to read the subtitles, and maybe there will be an AI dubbing it at some point. And if so, I'll probably check it out. A few interesting points stood out, says Gonzalo. The device was manufactured using a method that dates back thousands of years. Okay, interesting. There is a protective layer inside the equator holes that, once removed, reveals the optical fibers. Interesting, a protective layer. What is that made out of? A university in the U.S. has requested soil samples from the area where the ground dried out after the sphere was placed. Organizations from several countries attempted to buy the sphere from David with large sums, despite not having conducted any scientific studies on it. There is another unreleased video in Colombia that shows a very similar sphere. Now, I've shown several videos from that area, so it's interesting that there's one that's unreleased. I wonder why it's not released yet. A university is interested in performing carbon dating on the carbon-based polymer, even though the Mexican university advised against it due to the possibility of wide age ranges. Yes, so we also know that Stephen Greer is pursuing carbon dating, so we'll see what they turn up with, even if the university is against it. Thank you, Gonzalo, for pointing this roundtable discussion out to us. Meanwhile, Nazca Mummies says Congressman Eric Burleson was debriefed on the small mummies. The audio is really bad here. I'm not going to play it, but it's, 20 seconds or so of looking at one of the little guys. And I think I can hear Stephen Greer's voice in the background, maybe talking to Eric Burleson about the Nazca Mummies. If you turn it up really loudly, you might be able to hear more. But either way, Eric Burleson was there. We know he held the severed hand of a giant hybrid Nazca being. And they also introduced him to the little guys. So really cool that Congress is now being open to these beings discovered in South America. I don't know if that's going to go anywhere or if it should go anywhere. I really don't want the U.S. to get involved in that, but I'm glad they're open to it. So let me know what you think about that. Meanwhile, if you're interested in a primer on the Nazca Mummies, I recommend you to this video here from Tridactyls. I share some of his content on Twitter. He's the one that gave me that awesome Nazca Mummy replica head. I love it. And he actually gave a lecture, an hour-and-a-half lecture about the Nazca Mummies. So good for him and good for us for having this awesome lecture to refer to. And of course, I will link to this in the comments below if you're interested. Let's see. We had a really interesting idea here from Pavel Ibarra from Psychoactivio. I'm probably mispronouncing that, Pavel, sorry. But he believes he may have discovered the hidden location where the Ross Coulthard giant UFO is. Well, I'll show Ross's comments and then give Pavel's theory.
Yes. And so in the case of the buried UFO, I can't reveal, because if I reveal why I say this, it would compromise it. It's a very sensitive place. That should be enough of a guide for you. And to reveal the full extent of what I know would compromise the lives of young men and women who are doing good things for America, completely separate from the UAP program, and they're probably oblivious to what's sitting downstairs.
Okay, so then Pavel goes on to discuss his theory about where this location could be. And he believes it's the Baghdad Embassy, the U.S. Embassy in Baghdad. Now I looked it up, and the Baghdad Embassy, the U.S. Embassy, is only about 16 years old. Ross Coulthard said the building was built atop this UFO, this giant UFO. So that would be in keeping with that. So I think it's a good theory. It fits, the details that Ross laid out. Obviously, we're never going to know unless we get in the basement or, dig up what's under there, which is unlikely to happen. But, you never know, guys. So let me know what you think about that theory. Now, Jimmy Corsetti is also talking about mysteries in that area. And Pavel does as well. He mentions the whole Gilgamesh narrative, the idea that the Iraq War may have been started to get U.S. hands, particularly hands allied with Hillary Clinton, since that is the narrative, on the body of Gilgamesh himself, the ancient giant being that is, the hero of one of, if not the oldest, tales in human history. Jimmy Corsetti says, wow, Graham Hancock may have just uncovered a history-changing revelation involving the origins of the Epic of Gilgamesh, long believed to be a Sumerian tale originating out of ancient Mesopotamia 4,000 years ago, may have actually emerged out of Turkey in an astonishing 6,000 years earlier. Although nothing is certain and speculation is at hand, when you evaluate the details provided in Graham Hancock's newly published article, it is clearly very much within the realm of possibility that our history may need to be rewritten involving one of humanity's oldest surviving tales, which is really interesting. Now, Sumer is Iraq. So interesting that this story may have originally come out of Turkey, or, at least that's the idea. So I'll have to dive into that and see if that adds up or not. Let me know what you think about that theory. But I love, overall, combining Gilgamesh with UFOs and there being actually a real body of Gilgamesh somewhere and a big old conspiracy around it. And also a big old freaking UFO that they had to build an embassy atop of to hide. Is that the UFO that Gilgamesh came in, or that the creators of Gilgamesh came in? It's a fun story. Let me know what you think about it. I would love to know what the truth is on all of that, though, because there's a lot of smoke there. I don't know if there's any fire there or not, but it's a fun smoke. I kind of hope there's a little fire there. So yeah, let me know what you think about that. Meanwhile, speaking of that part of the world, particularly the Iran-Israel conflict, Jaime Maussan is sharing a UFO video that seems to be another example of orbs over that part of the world. Is, again, this fulfilling Chris Bledsoe's prophecy, or is this just kind of UFOs doing what they're doing? But I'll play a little bit of this. There's music in the background, so I hesitate to play it for very long. But here is part of that clip.
June 22, 2025. During the war between Iran and Israel, an extraordinary event occurred on 2 occasions when a metallic-looking sphere was briefly seen suspended in the sky a short distance from an inhabited area.
Okay, a great sighting, and I believe that is one of 2 examples that Jaime shows. And I will link to this full video, and you can watch the full thing at your leisure. Really interesting video and food for thought. I don't know if these are actually fulfilling Chris Bledsoe's prophecies. I kind of don't think they are. I think that if they were, they would be more of them, and they'd be more obvious. This would be some sort of sign, I think. But I could be wrong. They seem to be just kind of UFOs doing what they usually do. They are often attracted to, scenes of war and human activity in general. And they just kind of fly around all the time doing their own thing. And there could just be more eyes on the skies during times like this. So I don't want to say one leads to the other, but it's interesting to think about, and it would be important if we could know the truth of all of that. So let me know what you think about that in the comments below. Meanwhile, Freedom Find Me has a really interesting idea here. I wanted to share it with you about how UFOs work and how the beings work, how they perceive reality, how we perceive them. I've shared multiple examples of how UFOs seem to, at times, superimpose themselves over people or houses. It's a really interesting phenomenon. I don't know how that works exactly, although I've shared some of Peter Maxwell Slattery's thoughts about how that is actually possible. He has some really interesting insight into that. Well, Freedom Find Me also has some interesting ideas here. Fourth dimensional hypercube model. And he gives this example of a pilot flying through the sky in a jet. Pilot thinks he or she is separate from those objects, but UAP NHI is fourth dimensional. Pilot thinks he or she is separate, but is inside the UAP because the UFO has superimposed over the space that he or she is in. This is why they can interact with those looking at it, because good chances you are already inside it. Why they can abduct you, mess with your electronics, I can say that, and read your mind. And Freedom Find Me gives an interesting perspective on how aliens, how the NHI might perceive us in reality. Because they are existing in a different time state, fourth dimensional, I guess, they can look at multiple things at once, or at one thing multiple times at once. And so in this example, they're looking at the jet multiple times at once. I'm not quite sure what that means exactly. Freedom Find Me, if you're watching this, maybe you can explain that a little bit more. But he also gives the example. He can look at the jet and possibly the home of the fighter pilot at the same time. Could that explain things like hitchhikers and stuff like that, and why there is paranormal activity sometimes associated with UFOs? They're coming from another dimension. They can perceive connections of the pilot in the house, and so activity starts in the house. Something like that, right? Maybe. I don't know. But I thought that was a super interesting idea, and I wanted to share it with you and get your insight onto all of that. Last but not least, what would planets and stars look like if you could just cut them open? That is some sweet ASMR action right there. I don't know, what was your favorite, guys? I didn't know that stars and planets had gooey centers, but man, they look tasty. I don't know, now I'm hungry. Let me know what you think about this awesome ASMR planet solar action in the comments below, as well as everything else. Like and subscribe, hit the bell to be notified of future videos. You don't want to miss a thing. Join me on social media. There's Facebook and Twitter links below. Love to see you guys there. If you want to support Cosmic Road in a bigger way, grab a coffee mug or a t-shirt or a hoodie in the merch store. Become a channel member. Channel members are rock stars, and I really do appreciate your support. Thank you. Meanwhile, there's plenty of other videos on the channel, and I'll see you next time. This is Jack with Cosmic Road, signing out.